Hey, this is Amol from TechLeatherCraft. In this video I'm going to show you how to make a camera strap lanyard and a regular style camera strap. Now I will be using the quick connects from Peak Design. The links are in the description. I did already do a video review talking about how these work. But if you want, you can always use split rings instead of the connectors. I'm not a huge fan of split rings when it comes to camera straps. I've made them, but one of the things is they're not really easily removable, so they're always on your camera. And you have to worry about stuff getting scratched. I do recommend, if you do make one, to make a little leather pad like that where it protects you from the camera from the metal. The anchor links though are available from Peak Design. They're about $19.95 and they come with 4 of the anchors that you can attach to different cameras, and they're 2 connectors. You can see they're made to go into your general camera strap you may already own. And I also picked up a 4-pack of anchors. They're about $10, and basically it allows you to add them to other accessories you have or other cameras or equipment. So you can see here, it's on my point and shoot. I've added several to my digital SLR. I did end up attaching one to my everyday carry flashlight. I did attach it to the main part, not the clip, because you don't want the clip to slide off. One really nice thing about having the anchor point on there is that it works really nice to pull it out of your pocket. And then if I'm out hiking somewhere or I'm worried about losing it, I can always attach it to my hand strap, which I'm going to show you how to make. What's really nice is you can attach this to your multi-tool, knife, and when you need a lanyard, you have one, and when you don't, you can just disconnect it, and there's nothing really to get in your way when you want to work with the tool or flashlight. So I really like that design and this concept. And of course, you can always clip it onto your keys. The design I'm going to work on, you can also loop it onto a backpack, for example. Now the quick connect, you'll see there's 2 slots. The thin one, of course, is made for like a regular camera strap. We'll take measurements. The small opening is about 3/8 of an inch or 12 millimeters. That's what we'll be using for the hand strap. The larger one is 3/4 inch or 19 millimeters, and that's the one I'll be using to make the regular camera strap. So I'm going to take a quick measurement here of my original Canon strap that I had, and I'll be doing a quick measurement with my wrist strap just to get an idea of the kind of length I want. Now I'm going to cut the leather a little bit longer just to be sure. So here I'm going to use my strap cutter to just cut a strip of leather off. I already have these in strips because I make bracelets using them. So I'm just going to thin one down. And this one's going to be for the hand straps. So it's going to be 3/8 of an inch. This is Latigo or Latigo leather. So it's pretty durable stuff. It's what I use for like dog leashes or when I'm doing some saddle work or tack repair. It's really durable stuff. It has good water resistance to it. You can use veg tan. I would probably not use any soft leather because soft leathers can stretch. So we're going to do a little bend, and I'm going to mark it where I want the fold over to go. Now the next step is optional, and to me it just makes it look a little bit cleaner. It's a little bit more comfortable on your hand. But I do go ahead and skive down the turnover area. Basically what you want to do is end up with a taper, and so when you do the fold over, you can see it just kind of looks like it blends into like the strap it's coming from. We'll do a quick fit just to make sure there's enough play, and you can kind of figure out where you want to put rivets. And since I did leave mine a little bit long, I'm going to test out just how big of a loop I want to create. You can clamp it down if you want, clip it onto my digital SLR and just see how the strap hangs. And if I need to shorten it up, I will. So then I'm going to skive down the other end also. Now I haven't actually trimmed it up, I'll trim it in just a second. But you skive down that end also, roughly where it needs to be. So once it's shortened, you want to do basically 3 layers of leather. Just want to fold it over and just see how the leather strap is going to sit. Then when you have a chance, you're going to mark out basically your glue lines. Once that's done, you do want to bevel it. This is going to be a hand strap, and even the neck strap I do bevel because it's going to be on your hand, on your wrist. You don't want any sharp edges there. Now if you can't bevel it, it's not a big deal, but I do recommend beveling and burnishing if you can. Latigo is a little bit harder to burnish, but I do definitely bevel it down. We're going to quickly apply some contact cement just in the area that we had marked out and do a fold over, make sure it's glued down nicely. And then we're going to bring the other part back, and the trick here is you want to make sure you go through all 3 layers of leather. So the bottom piece, the fold over, and then the top piece should all be sandwiched together. Now I'm going to be riveting mine, so I'm just going to do a quick kind of placement of where they should be. You can also hand stitch it. Now you do want to rough up the leather just a little bit, just so the contact cement adheres. There it is, all glued together. We're going to clip it and let it dry up for a little bit, and then we'll go punch some holes to get the rivets placed. I'm going to be using 2 rivets, but what I recommend is you punch the first one, because depending on the rivet size you use, the little flange or like the top dome area can take up some space. So I do recommend waiting till you've set the first one and then punching the second one, because that will kind of give you the idea of how far away it needs to be. Once again, you want to make sure that your rivets are going in to all 3 pieces of leather. So here's the finished hand strap with the 2 rivets. This is how it looks on my Canon S95. Other than using it as a hand strap or lanyard for your camera, you can also kind of loop it onto like a backpack or even through your belt, and you can use it to carry items. So like I've used it for my flashlight on my backpack. Depending on where you are, you can put your camera or your keys on there. And of course you have a multi-tool or like a knife that you want to use. Just really quick to show you, it's pretty durable. The anchor points from Peak Designs, they're rated about 100 pounds. And so you don't have to worry about that part failing. In fact, the 4-pack that I picked up from them, those are rated at 200 pounds. So 100 to 200 pounds for sure is pretty sufficient to hold a digital SLR. And if you use a firm enough leather, strong enough leather, you should have no problem with a digital SLR, depending on what kind of lens you have on there. So let's talk about the camera strap. I'm going to be using the same leather that I used, just to show you this is what it looks like. I do have 2 buckles on there to make adjustments. It also looks a little symmetrical, but you can only use 1 buckle if you wanted. First, we're going to start off by cutting strips that are 3/4 inch wide, and these are about 12.5 inches in length. Now, I already did the taper that you see right there. You do want to taper about 2 inches, and so when you fold over, there's about 1 inch on each side that folds back onto itself. Kind of shortens it down to about 10 inches, 10.5 inches, give or take. One end, you're going to be attaching a buckle. This is a 3/4 inch buckle, and on the other end, you're going to be attaching the Peak Design clip, or if you're using a split ring, in this case you can put your split ring and a little leather pad there. You do want to size it depending on what you're going to be using it for. So this is basically how it will look when it's connected. It'll be a buckle on one end and a split ring or the Peak Design clip. The next part is cutting a long strip. Now I cut mine about 36 inches, give or take, and this is going to be the part right here where that goes rest on your neck. So you do want to be sure to bevel that also and burnish it if you want. So we're going to set that to dry for just a little bit. Be sure that the quick connector top is also facing the right way and that it's placed correctly so that the nice side of the leather is showing. To glue it, you just want to make sure that it's nice and even. While we let that one dry, we're going to make a slot for the buckle end. So I use an oblong punch. If you don't have one of those are kind of expensive, you can always punch 2 holes about 1 inch, 3/4 inch away, and then just cut it with a sharp knife to make your slot. We're going to set it up to dry, and while that's drying, one quick thing I'll talk about is if you do want to use 2 buckles, what you would need to do is just extend your main strap out a little bit longer and put a quick connect or your split ring on that end, and just have that part be a little bit longer. Now it won't be symmetrical because you'll only have buckle on one side, but you could always do that if you didn't want to make 2 buckle ends for the strap. When you are clamping these down, you do want to make sure that every once in a while you move the clamp down just to make sure that the glue adheres properly. So you're going to do that for both straps, and what you should end up with is 2 with a buckle on one end and a split ring or the Peak Design quick connect on the other end. Right now we're going to go punch some holes and rivet down the buckle and the quick connects, and then we'll also punch holes into the camera strap. So here it is with the rivets attached. You can see I just put 2 rivets next to each other. You can always hand stitch or stitch this on there too. You want to use some heavy duty thread because depending on what you're carrying, it could be holding a lot of weight. I punched about 5 holes on each side of the long strap, and you do want to make sure you leave enough of a tail so that when you are slipping it through the buckle, it catches and it doesn't want to come up. So just to show you, you want to make sure that the tail end sits tucked underneath that strap keeper right there. Putting it all together, I'm going to just put it into the middle hole. I have 5 holes, so I'll put it in the 3rd hole just to kind of get a rough estimate. So the nice thing about this design is you can, in fact, if you find it's too long, you can just trim up the main long piece of leather and you don't have to mess with the other connectors. So, for example, if I found this was too long, I could just trim off a couple inches and just make a couple more holes for their back. It's a personal choice. I do recommend waiting about a week or so of putting it through use before you come to that decision. If you're making this for yourself, you may also want to trim off any extra of the flap that hangs over. So here it is on the camera, and this is at the tightest setting I have it at. Now depending on how you place the holes and how much leather you use on your strap, like I mentioned, I do recommend measuring the original strap just to get a rough idea and going off that and adding several inches to that measurement, so you can always trim off if you need to. One really nice thing about it is you can quick connect and switch between them. The camera strap is not a replacement for the Peak Design Leash, because the Peak Design Leash can be adjusted really quick. It also happens to slide really well as when you're using it as a leash function. That is not really possible when you're using leather, mostly because there's like a suede and it's fuzzy and it has more grip. So it works better as a camera strap, but you can also use it as a leash. Just don't expect it to be as fast as like the leash that comes from Peak Design. Also, adjusting it requires you to undo the buckle, so it does take a while to adjust, unlike the Peak Design. So here it is in like a leash configuration. You can see the buckle is on the front. One thing I'll point out is, when you bring it up, you just kind of need to kind of play with it a little bit. It's not going to be as fast as the leash is. So when I'm doing professional work, I'll probably be sticking with using the leash. I'll use the leather camera strap for more kind of casual shoots. One nice thing, of course, about it is now that I have the anchor points on my digital DSLR, I can switch to the hand strap. One of my favorite features about the Peak Design connector versus using something like a split ring is you can twist it and turn it. It has some nice swivel, so no matter how you grip the camera, it's not going to feel awkward like sometimes split rings do. So that's one thing I really like. Once again, you can use the hand strap for any of your devices. Right now I've been using them for my flashlight for the most part, and for my multi-tool, and a couple of spare keys that I don't always carry on me, but I like to have on me in my backpack. So if you've seen my Instagram page, you've seen that I make these trigger snap keyrings. So basically it has the keyring on the end and the trigger snap on the other end. So I decided to make one with a trigger snap, and on the other end, instead of split ring, I put the Peak Design connector. So I was just playing with it. I haven't had the chance to test it out fully, but basically you can clip this onto a backpack, similar to the Lanyard, or you can clip it to like a purse hardware or your messenger bag hardware and kind of hang like your flashlight or camera on the inside of the bag. I'm still kind of experimenting. I'll post a video if anyone is interested. I'll have a link to Peak Design's accessories in the description. Do check out the video review I did of their leash. So that's been my DIY camera strap tutorial using the Peak Design connectors and links. I really like their system. I'll probably be using that throughout my electronics and my camera gear just to make switching out easy. Hopefully this tutorial helps you guys if you want to make your own camera strap, either using the Peak Design accessories and the anchor points or split rings. If you like leathercraft, tech, and EDC multi-tool reviews, subscribe to my channel. I'll have more stuff coming up pretty soon. Thanks.